major announcement it is set to make in our area here in just a couple of hours this morning. The company tells us it is expanding in order to meet demands for electric vehicles.
Around the country, there's going to be a very good chance that your new Toyota hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or electric vehicle will be powered by a battery that comes off the line in this facility.
Excitement is building as we get closer to production at the Toyota battery plant.
That massive $14 billion facility at the Greensboro Randolph megasite is just weeks away from making their first shipment.
The assembly lines inside America's auto plants haven't gone silent. Robots still weld frames, conveyors still move parts, parking lots are still full at shift change, and a growing realization inside boardrooms that the United States has become the most unpredictable place in North America to build a vehicle. According to industry research groups, automakers absorbed nearly $18 billion in new expenses within the first year alone. That cost didn't vanish. It spread outward into logistics, suppliers, dealers, and eventually consumers. Production numbers tell the story clearly. North American output dropped by tens of thousands of vehicles per day. Monthly production fell by double-digit percentages. These aren't seasonal dips. These are structural contractions. Automakers responded the only way they could. They slowed U.S. lines. They raised prices. They canceled or delayed investment plans. For American buyers, the result was immediate. The average price of a new vehicle climbed beyond the reach of middle-income households. Financing terms tightened. Sales volumes weakened. Demand didn't disappear, but affordability did, and the pressure didn't stop at foreign brands. Domestic manufacturers were hit just as hard. Steel, aluminum, and copper prices surged under tariff pressure, adding thousands of dollars to the cost of building every vehicle on American soil. Logistics costs ballooned. Parts shortages became routine. Ford and General Motors both reduced domestic output, citing cost volatility and supply disruptions. The weakest link snapped first. Small and mid-sized part suppliers, companies with thin margins and no global footprint, began suspending operations. Some closed temporarily, others permanently. Each closure rippled outward. Trucking routes dried up. Tooling shops lost contracts. Entire local economies built around auto manufacturing started to hollow out. This is what supply chain collapse looks like in real life. Not dramatic, just relentless. While American manufacturers were fighting instability, Canada made a different calculation. Ottawa didn't respond with retaliation or political theater. It responded with predictability. Canadian policymakers recognized an opening. Automakers weren't fleeing America out of hostility. They were fleeing uncertainty. So Canada offered what Washington no longer could: stable trade rules, long-term industrial planning, and guaranteed market access. The response from global automakers was swift. Honda announced the largest investment in its Canadian history, a massive electric vehicle and battery manufacturing complex in Ontario. Backed by federal and provincial support, the project is designed to produce hundreds of thousands of EVs annually, while anchoring battery production inside Canada's clean energy grid. Toyota followed suit, expanding its Ontario footprint and aligning production with trade frameworks that give Canadian-built vehicles tariff-free access to Europe, Japan, and Pacific markets. This is the key difference. While American factories now face trade barriers abroad, Canadian production moves freely across more than 50 global markets. That freedom changes everything. Canada didn't just attract factories, it attracted strategy. Automakers began reorganizing North American production around Canadian certainty. Clean electricity lowered operating costs. Stable trade agreements reduced risk. Long-term policy commitments allowed companies to plan decades ahead instead of quarter by quarter. The result is a quiet transformation. Japanese automakers now account for nearly half of all vehicles produced in Canada. High-skilled jobs in battery technology, advanced manufacturing, and research are clustering in Ontario and Windsor. These aren't temporary wins. They are structural gains. Back in the United States, the consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. Toyota's North American operations swung from profit to loss. The company revised its global earnings forecast downward by billions of dollars, directly citing tariff-driven cost increases and supply chain strain. Plants that once ran at full capacity now operate cautiously, hedging against future disruptions. Suppliers feel the pain first. Logistics companies report shipment volumes at their weakest levels in over a decade. Auto haulers are moving fewer loads. Service businesses that relied on steady factory income are closing quietly. State officials avoid the word crisis, but the pattern is familiar. It resembles the early stages of deindustrialization seen during previous downturns. Only this time, demand still exists. The system itself is malfunctioning. And now, a new uncertainty looms. The legal foundation of these tariffs is under direct challenge. Multiple courts have already ruled that the president may have exceeded constitutional authority by imposing what are effectively taxes without congressional approval. The argument is simple. Tariffs generate revenue, and the Constitution grants taxation power to Congress, not the executive branch. The Supreme Court is now weighing whether the tariffs fall under emergency trade authority or violate the separation of powers. During oral arguments, justices questioned whether trade deficits qualify as national emergencies and whether allies should be treated as threats. The stakes are enormous. If the court strikes down the tariffs, companies may seek refunds totaling tens of billions of dollars. The administrative process alone could take years, and during that time, uncertainty only deepens. For manufacturers, this legal limbo is almost worse than the tariffs themselves. Factories are not built on speculation. Supply chains are not designed around temporary rules. When policy can vanish overnight, companies stop investing. They pause. They wait. And while they wait, Canada continues to move. Canada's strategy isn't built on slogans. It's built on alignment between energy policy, trade agreements, and industrial planning. Its manufacturing sector now enjoys access to the European Union, the United Kingdom, Japan, and Pacific economies without facing the trade walls confronting American exports. The contrast couldn't be sharper. One country is improvising, the other is executing. Every new battery plant announced in Ontario is one not built in Ohio. Every $1 billion committed to Canadian EV infrastructure is capital diverted from U.S. states that once dominated automotive growth. This isn't a sudden collapse, it's a slow redistribution of industrial power. And that raises the question Washington has yet to answer. Can the United States restore confidence before the shift becomes permanent? Can it rebuild trust with manufacturers who plan decades ahead? Or has policy instability already locked in Canada's lead for the next generation of vehicles? The factories are still running, for now. But the decisions that matter most are being made elsewhere. And by the time the consequences are fully visible, reversing them may no longer be possible.